AUKUS isn't the partnership to defeat China. It is the partnership to deliver Australia nuclear-powered submarines.
AUKUS is a trilateral security partnership for the Indo-Pacific region that involves the US and the UK assisting Australia in acquiring nuclear-powered submarines in an effort in part to recapitalise their new navy.
They recognised that having the reach and the stealth of a nuclear-powered submarine was far superior to the notion that you could use what is basically a 20th century technology in terms of propulsion for submarines.
The AUKUS partnership was announced in 2021. 18 months later came some detail.
Again, in the early 2030s, the United States will sell 3 Virginia-class submarines to Australia, with the potential to sell up to 2 more if needed.
1 year later, and already there are potential delays due to the US's own undersea needs.
This budget funds 9 out of 10 Virginia-class that had been projected over the FYDP.
FYDP, or FYDP, stands for Future Years Defense Program.
We removed 1 Virginia-class out of concern for the industrial base ability to produce yet 1 more, while in a capped environment, making headroom for these historic investments in the submarine industrial base. Despite
Joe Biden's proposed budget of $7.3 trillion in 2025, defense only sees a 1% increase. Factor in inflation, and that's tantamount to a cut at a time when many other countries are increasing spending on defense significantly.
Page 21 of your testimony talks about how it's the undersea domain's getting a little more crowded out there with Russia now with a Pacific fleet. Can you just express again, for the record, how critical is the mission of U.S. attack submarines in maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific?
The United States' asymmetric advantage of undersea capabilities, we are second to none, and that is a domain that we need to maintain superiority, we need to maintain capacity, and we need to maintain the industrial base that supports it.
Currently, there's 1 nuclear-powered boat-building facility in Scotland and 2 in the US. Huntington Ingalls, which is in Virginia, an electric boat in Joe Courtney's state of Connecticut. But for many years, throughput has fallen significantly.
What are you telling the Australians about this decision to buy 1 per year and what it means for the partnership going forward?
Well, it's 1 in 1 year, and we have a plan to procure 2 in the out years. But to be clear, the investments made in this budget are those required to get to that 2.0 cadence that we need for U.S. needs. Thanks to the Australians and the support of Congress, there are additional investments that we expect to bring us up above that 2.0 delivery cadence to that 2.33.
Since the AUKUS partnership was announced in 2021, the government of the People's Republic of China has repeatedly accused the US, UK and Australia of adopting a Cold War mentality and warning them not to jeopardize international and regional peace and stability at the expense of their own security interests. This from a country that, following its takeover of Hong Kong, has increased its provocation of other countries in the region. That includes live fire exercises near Pingtan Island, some 80 miles west of Taiwan, in the build-up and during Nancy Pelosi's visit to the country.
It's somewhere between 6 and 12 countries in which China claims territory that is now the sovereign territory of other nations. It is not just Taiwan.
In March, the Chinese Coast Guard had disputes with civilian vessels from the Philippines over territorial waters in the South China Sea. In May, the US condemned what it called unnecessarily aggressive behaviour from a Chinese fighter jet crew during the interception of an American spy plane in the same region. Days later, and unsafe manoeuvres were carried out near the USS Chung-Hoon in the Strait of Taiwan.
There's just a very coercive entity in the region right now that's forcing all these countries, which have really no desire to get into any kind of conflict, to be on their heels defending themselves.
During Messrs. Courtney and Myler's discussion, they outlined how alliances such as the Quad, Five Eyes and now AUKUS help preserve a free and open Indo-Pacific. Mr. Myler said he believes China's what he called threshold is to expel the US from within the first island chain. a reference to the chain of islands encompassing Japan, Taiwan, portions of the Philippines and Indonesia.
When we look at, the sort of misinformation that's being put around, the notion that somehow 8 submarines is, a massive contribution to an arms race, and you compare it to what the Chinese production of naval vessels is without any transparent rationale, it's very hard to fathom.
China now has the biggest navy in the world and over a 10-year average has increased defence spending approximately 7.5% year on year.
There's no question that if you look at the posture of the Japanese government in recent years, it's quite extraordinary, again, because of external events and pressures that are on them, but they just increased their defence budget by 16%.
Speaking to a Conservative commentator Hugh Hewitt, Australia's ambassador to the US, Kevin Rudd, said that while Australia recognises the pressures on the US industrial base, he believes that with continued investment, things will get back on track. He also detailed how Australia is doing its bit to increase production.
We're also building in Adelaide a new shipbuilding capability which will produce our own Aukus class nuclear attack submarines.
That is terrific news.
Mr. Rudd says the new nuclear-powered boat-building facility will be a welcome addition to those in Scotland and the US.
You're going to have a 4th one which will now be in Adelaide in South Australia. On top of that, we're upgrading our naval base in Fremantle in Western Australia, just south of Perth. That's going to be able to accommodate many more of the needs of US nuclear attack submarines when they are in the region. And on top of that, we're going to have also maintenance and repair facilities for your boats and for ours in the region. So the geography of Australia helps the Allied strategic interest on this as well.